Hello, everybody. Welcome to this new delivery, a new entry on my blog, Tech Taco Friday. And today, I have a very special treat for you today. I mean, I think I always have a special treat for you today, but and this time, it's a very special treat even for me. And the reason being is that I'm gonna talk about SQL databases in Microsoft Fabric, right? It's being recently released to the public preview, right? As you can see on this article, yes, this Microsoft Fabric blog, they published on November 19 that they finally announced that it will be in public preview the SQL databases in Microsoft Fabric. And this is awesome, right? And this is awesome. This is something that I want that I would like to talk about for a long time. I was aware of this new Fabric experience because I happened to be working with a company that was granted the private preview of this new experience in Fabric. And for me, I mean, I started to work with it. I started to see what exactly were and what was the nature and the structure of the SQL databases created in Fabric, and I was so amazed. Believe me, it has something that it's called database projects embedded into it. I mean, built into the structure of Fabric um, database that it's so important. But I'm not gonna get ahead of myself. Let's start from the beginning, right? So um, I'm going to show you a couple of things, right? I'm going to show you how to create one. I'm going to show you after that, when you're checking the changes in a Git enabled workspace containing a SQL database, what exactly is being created in the code, right? In a branch attached to that workspace. And I'm just going to explain to you how to work with that. All right. So let's get to it because that's the important part. I don't just want to. I will talk about more and more and more about this one, but this is just a quick introduction. Get you what you needed to do or what you needed to know in order to get the best right at the get go with SQL databases. So let's jump right into it. So the first thing we are going to need, of course, is a workspace, right? Now, I did already create one that it's right here, SQL database experience dash dev. That's the name of my workspace. And in that's on my right and on my right hand side. Now, on my left side, I have, as you can see here already, a branch on my DevOps environment called, I mean, I use the naming convention of naming the branches the same as the workspaces that I'm created, right? And I'm using the path workspace dash SQLDB experience.dev, and I'm using a develop branch. So I'm clicking on this one, and you will see that currently this branch is completely empty, right? So I'm just starting from scratch for you to see exactly what's going to happen, okay? Now, on my Fabric, I have the workspace, and as you can see here I already created a SQL database called Fabric SQLDB. The process to create this one, I mean, it's as simple as click a new item, SQL database, right? And I give it a name. In this case, let's say Fabric SQLDB. Let's click create, and the process will give you this, right? So far, so good? Fine. Okay. Now that we have an item of SQL database type in my workspace, now what's next? All right. So to begin with, let's make clear that this is a SQL database, right? I mean, for those that are familiar with SQL databases, you won't find anything out of the ordinary. It's a SQL database, right? With some, let's say, limitations in terms that there's no more complex type of operations that you can find in an on-prem SQL server or actually a current Azure SQL database. But 99.99% of the databases today only relies on the following building blocks: tables, views, stored procedures, and functions, right? And as you can see here, you have the option of building a scalar value functions or table value functions. So again, pretty much most of the database use this one, right? Base their functionality on this one. If you need something a little bit more complex, probably you will have to find something else. But for the most of us and most of the databases today, they are the core functionality. It's built around this for building blocks. So having that said, um, it's again, right? I mean, I cannot just be more specific with regards of it's a SQL database. I mean, it's a SQL database, so that means that we can operate on them using SQL language. So I'm gonna say, and I'm gonna do this right off the get-go, I'm just gonna create a database. Sorry, a table. I'm gonna create a table called my table, and actually along with it, I'm going to create a new schema called test. Okay, so I'm just gonna take this script right here, right, and going to click a new query. Actually, I'm going to do something. Instead of a new query, I'm going to rename this one that I have. Okay, and I'm going to call TTF, Tech Tackle Friday, SQL demo, right? So I wanted to reuse this query. Okay, and I want to, because I wanted to identify. Okay, so this is the query that I'm going to use. I'm going to copy my code and then I'm going to run it, right? So create a schema test first and then go, which separates the command, right? Saying, okay, once you complete this one, then you can continue with the second part because I need the schema to be created in order for me to create a table. Okay, makes sense? Really quickly, SQL stuff, run. And then I guess to no one's surprise, what needs to be happening or what's going to happen is that, yeah, I mean, yeah, a new table, it's being created, right? So again, no surprises, everything good. All right. Now that we have our SQL table, or SQL database, correct, with one table, I'm going to connect the workspace and I'm going to git enable it, right? For us to see what exactly, I mean, how this gets reflected, its representation in terms of code. Okay, so let's do this. I'm going to go to my workspace, settings, git integration, and I'm going to connect to this branch. So let's connect. My org is Fabric Catalyst. My project is RTD. RTD. RTD means really quickly research and technological development, by the way. So workspace SQL Fabric experience dev development, and the folder, the Git folder where I will have all my SQL elements is the root folder because I don't have anything. There's no folder. And let's connect and sync. All right. Let's see what's happening. Now you can see that currently it's saying, yes, the contents of my item are not in Git. So I need to create those ones. And this is exactly what it's doing. It's syncing the workspace with the items that are currently supported by Git enable or Git integration. Okay, that's it. And locally, database is one of those. All right, so I think it's done. Let's refresh this one. Okay, there it goes. Oops, I refreshed before it switched to sync. Now it's sync. We know that the representation is being created. So let's refresh our branch content, and there it goes, right? So we have a couple of elements. So let's talk about a little bit of what is this. This is a database project. And I'm so excited and so happy that Microsoft didn't want to reinvent the wheel with this one. I mean, the concept of SQL database projects is not new. It's been on SQL for a long time. In my experience, unfortunately, it's not as widely known as I would like to see, right? In the field with the companies and the people that I work, sometimes I talk about people and said, do you know that you can create a SQL database project for your database and do CI/CD using database project, which will make your deployments much easier and less less prone to errors. And I'm like, no, I didn't know that existed. And when I show them, there's like, oh man, this is so cool. Because using database projects allows you to check and to compare databases, make changes, deploy things, versioning your database schema, right? And the schema at the end is a blueprint of your database, right? It contains the definition of your tables, views, store procedures, and so on and so forth. So you can have your dev version, your test, and your production, right? And you can deploy the whole database project, right, as a unity to different environments, which makes sure that you deploy the whole definition of your database. So no more, oh my God, I deployed to test, and shoots, we forgot that we needed to update this table before, or we forgot that we needed to add this column that was added. No, you have a project, you have source control in top of that. So you know that you created a feature, you go and you follow a strict development procedure in order to create or to introduce changes, and then you deploy the content of the branch in the form of a project to different target databases. Hope that makes sense. I will definitely talk a little more about that one, and I'm just going to leave you the description of a article that I wrote about database projects for you to familiarize with this concept. But for the time being, this is the quick explanation about this one. And as you can see, also, this follows the form of the structure of schemas, and within the schema, it contains tables, views, store procedures. I mean, the tables, views, store procedures, and functions that belong to that schema. So that's the structure, right? Now, here's comes, and the reason why I'm saying that this is not a new concept is this, right? I do have already a database, and this is the real case scenario that I'm going to use, right? So this, what you're seeing here on this side is a SQL server, a SQL, Azure SQL database, SQL Server database. And it's pointing, as you can see, to the my database.windows.net. It contains a lot of stuff like tables, the regular normal components, right? Tables, views, and store procedures. And this is exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to create a Fabric database and then move my content of this existing database to Fabric as is, right? This is what I'm going to do. Now, I do have um, for this SQL database also a project that I'm going to show you right here. Now, this project, I built this project for that database using SQL Visual Studio. I'm sorry, Visual Studio. And as you can see here, it's a project. And actually, one of the cool things about projects, as I mentioned, is the fact that you can, do a very series of operations with the project, starting or actually one of the most important ones and more useful ones is the fact that you can import a whole database to the project, and then the project you can publish to different targeted database, and again it will publish the whole content of the project. But okay, that's it. That's what I wanted to do. I'm not going to use this project per se. I'm just going to copy the contents and to directly to my workspaces in Fabric, and you'll see what's going to happen. All right. So bear in mind that I have this one. On the other side, again, we have, let me put this one, where should I put this one? Okay, I'm just going to put it right here. The second part of the second tool that we're going to use for the time being is one tool called Azure Data Studio, right? And the reason why is because as of now, there you cannot open Fabric projects in Visual Studio. We need this another tool called Data SQL Azure Data Studio, because on this one we can read the Fabric SQL database projects, right? Remember, it's a public preview, so I'm definitely understand that uh, some things are not just ready just yet, but nonetheless, we can do a lot with it, right? Even with its current state, we can do a lot of stuff, and I'm going to show you, right? All right. Now, that being said, I need to connect to my branch that we have. In this case, we have this branch right here, correct? And I need to sync it because, I just push changes to the branch. Now I need to bring those changes, clone my changes locally to my project. So this is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to sync changes. I'm going to click OK. And what it's going to do, I mean, if you're familiar with Git, it will download all the commits and information from my current branch to my locally, which is a clone operation. And now we have it, right? We have our content of our branch. We have our fabric.sql project. Now we need to open it, right? So on Azure Data Studio, you have this one, right? So you can open an existing project, which this is what I'm going to do. I have my folder, Tech Taco Friday RTD, right click, and this is the project, right? So I'm just going to double click it and then open it because it's the one clone from my branch, right? Now we have my database project here with my tables. And now we can do a lot of stuff, right? We can do, for instance, changes, right? We can introduce changes to the code, and the code will be reflected on Fabric. Let me show you. And this is the cool thing. Now, remember that I said that I wanted to move all the contents from my database to this one? This is exactly what I'm going to do, all right? So bear with me for a second. Let's say that I'm going to go really quickly to the source of my branch, right? Remember that I have it here. Okay, so RTD, double click, Fabric SQL database, and I have test security. On this side, I have an existing database, right? Existing project. And as you can see here, it just follows the same, let's say the same structure. Let me locate. Okay, where is it? Where is it? So I need to switch to this one. Let's go to my weld project. I just need to locate one of the files here so I can do this. Open folder in Explorer, right? So we have, as you can see here, all the elements. Right. Okay, there it goes. Yes. So we have our dims, facts, I mean, all the components, and we want to move this from my existing project to my Fabric. Okay, let's do this. I'm going to take all the contents from my dim, right? Schema, dim, fact, store procedures, stages, and views, which is the one that I want, correct? I'm going to copy all of this stuff, and I'm just going to move it to my project. And from the security as well, I need to copy all of this because this is the definition of the schemas. As you can see here, I have dim, fact, store procedure, staging, and view, which correspond to this one from my security. So let's copy and then paste this one on my security folder, right? As you can see, the structures, I mean, even though you cannot open it, this one on it follows the same structure, which allows us to do something like this, right? Now that we have everything on this one, what we want is just to push these changes to our SQL database. Let's do that, right? Now we have all these changes in our local repository. So now we need to do, okay, sending the new definition to our Fabric DB, right? As you can see, on our source control, we don't have anything. We don't have any pending changes. All the changes have been committed and in sync with the workspace. So let's commit, okay? And then we're going to push the changes to our branch. Okay, so commit, sync the changes. Yes, okay. Let's see. Let's give it a few minutes. So in Okay, let's wait. Just give it 1 second. I want you to see the whole process as it goes, right? So I'm going to go to my database project. I'm going to refresh it, right? And everything's to be good. If I build the project, and this is one of the greatest benefits of having a project is that you can validate your code, validate your database before you push it as any other program. So if during your build you discover that there's something wrong, some missing reference, something that is not right, the build itself is going to tell you. That allows us also to do unit testing before we push the project to a target database. That's also another benefit of handling through database projects. So we can see that the project it's correct. So that means that we don't miss anything. We included all the items and all the files that we require. So let's go and close this one. And let's go right to the fabric, correct? So I'm going to click on source control. In a few seconds, you will see that we have an update, right? It's telling us that on our branch, you push something that is not there in our fabric, right? So in order to, as you can see here, we have it in our branch, right? But now we need to update our SQL database. Let's do that, okay? So it's gonna go to source control and then update all. So in this, what it's gonna do is take the new project definition in our code and apply all the changes within this project to our SQL Fabric database. Isn't that awesome? Let's wait a little bit, okay? So if everything works as we would expect, I hope so, right? And again, remember, and I'm not just justifying that this is going to fail for some reason because it's in public preview. It's supposed to be working. So let's hope that everything works as expected. Um, of course, it will take some time because right now it's um, synchronizing the changes or the version that we push in our project in the code to our Fabric SQL database. Let's see. I think we can go and I don't know. Probably it. I don't think we can see it this process until it's fully completed. But I think it's going to take a few more seconds, right? Hmm. Okay. Now it keeps working. It keeps working. All right. So let's see. What do we have? Yes. Okay, let's click on. Okay, there he goes. Finally, your content was synced. So we were successful. So what would you expect is that exactly what you get, right? If I go to my workspace, if I click here, and if I just refresh, there it goes, right? So as you can see, now we have all my tables. I have all my fact tables. I have my store procedures and the whole shebang ready. And I didn't have to go each and every one of those scripts and create it by hand. You don't have to, right? You don't have to. You just need to push it, right? You need to control. So imagine a scenario that you wanted to introduce, you wanted to create a new feature for your applications that require changes on your database. Okay, go to your develop branch to develop, in this case, if the workspace is attached to the develop branch, you create a new branch, introduce your changes, pull request, I mean, commit it, pull request it, peer review it, approve it accordingly. And then until you're ready and 100% sure that your changes are work correctly, merge it and then push it to the target, making sure that the database project will create and do all the update operations. If it detects there's a difference between the source, which is a project, to your target database, right? Oof. So finally, and again, I cannot be more pleased that they took this route. That the Microsoft decided not reinvent the wheel on this one and using a concept that it's solid, tested, and working from a long time, right? So let me show you one last thing, and then we can wrap this video up, correct? So just for you to see that we can also connect to this workspace, right? To this uh, database as any other SQL database. Let me show you, and let me prove it to you, right? So we have our SQL database, and I think we can go to my connection strings because I need this information. So I mentioned that, let me close this one so it won't be distracting. So we have this source. So let's take this one and copy, and I'm just going to connect to my server. As you can see here, it's telling you that we need the Active Directory interactive, which means pretty much MFA, right? And I'm going to use my account since this one is connected to a workspace that I'm using. This is Hector.Lopez in norway.onmicrosoft.com, right? And I'm going to connect or going to use my initial catalog, which is all to this here, right? Connection properties. I'm going to connect to this database, and let's give it a try, right? Connect. Now, since an MFA is asking me to approve, right, through this one. So I'm just click OK, and boom, done. What do we have, right? We have a SQL database that we are going to manipulate. And now, for instance, we have our stored procedures. I mean, pretty much we can do whatever we want with this database. I mean, we can operate as any other database available, right? So I'm just going to populate my dates, right? Let's see, right? So I'm operating as in Fabric as any other database, right? And again, this is so cool. This is so cool. Imagine that you have, like me, a database that you want and you've been developed for a long time that you just want to live and ship. So it can play with all the great features in Fabric. Okay, there it goes. By all means, go and do it. So you can see here, if I jump, I mean, you saw that I run my store procedure from my SQL Server Management Studio, right? The SQL store procedure fills or populates this dim date. So after this one, if I go again to SQL, to my SQL query, and then let's select top 100 star from my dates, from my dim.dates. IntelliSys works just as you would expect for every other one, and voila, there it goes. We have data. Is that cool or what? All right. So I think that's what I wanted to show you today. I hope you find it useful and interesting, and you share the excitement, my excitement about this, and immediately start working on that. Try it out yourself. Going and create your own databases and make it work. All right. So for the time being, thank you very much. See you in another video. Bye.